Imagine waking up tomorrow and suddenly remembering every single moment of your life, every birthday, every conversation, every face you've ever seen, even for 1 second, on a busy street 10 years ago. All of it, right there in your head at the same time. Sounds amazing, right? Now here's the scary part. What if you couldn't turn it off? That's the question we're going to explore today, because there's a famous idea that most people believe. You've probably heard it too. People say we only use 10% of our brain. The other 90%, just sitting there, doing nothing, waiting. And that idea makes you wonder, what if one day that switch flipped? What if your brain suddenly turned on all the way, 100%? Would you become a genius? Would you see the world differently? Would you even survive it? Let's find out. But first, we need to clear something up. The 10% brain thing? It's not true. It's actually one of the biggest myths in human history. Nobody knows exactly where it started. Some think it came from an old, misunderstood quote by a scientist. Some think it came from early brain experiments, back when doctors couldn't explain what most of the brain was doing, so they assumed it was doing nothing. Then movies grabbed the idea and ran with it. Superhero brains, telepathy, people moving objects with their minds, all because of one number that was never even real. Here's the truth. Scan a human brain, even while someone is just relaxing on the couch, and you'll see activity almost everywhere. Different parts light up for different jobs. One part for seeing, one part for moving your hand, one part for remembering your mom's voice. Nothing just sits there unused. And think about this. Your brain already eats up huge amounts of energy. About 20% of everything your body burns just to keep your brain running like normal. If 90% of it was doing nothing, why would your body waste that much energy keeping it alive? It wouldn't. Nature doesn't work that way. So the myth is false. But here's the fun part. What if, just for one wild experiment, we imagined it was true? What if the off switch really did exist and suddenly turned on? Let's walk through what would actually happen, step by step. And trust me, it gets stranger the deeper we go. Let's start with memory. Right now, your brain forgets things on purpose. That awkward thing you said in 3rd grade, gone. That boring Tuesday 2 years ago, deleted. Your brain throws away almost everything and only keeps what matters. Now imagine that stops. Imagine you remember everything, every single day of your life, in full detail, forever. Sounds cool, right? But here's the scary part. There are real people in the world who actually have this. Doctors call it superior memory. And you think these people are living the dream, but many of them say the opposite. They can't forget pain. They can't forget embarrassment. Old sadness from 20 years ago feels just as fresh as yesterday. Forgetting isn't a flaw. It's a gift. It lets you heal. Memory is strange enough. But what about intelligence? If your whole brain turned on, would you instantly become a genius? Here's the twist. Your brain already handles an insane amount of information every second. Sounds, colors, smells, tiny movements around you. But it hides most of it from you. On purpose. Because if you noticed everything all the time, you'd never be able to focus on anything. Now picture that filter disappearing. Every sound in the room, every flicker of light, every tiny detail, all crashing into your mind at once. That's not genius, that's chaos. There's actually a small group of people who show us a hint of this. Some people after brain injuries suddenly develop incredible skills. Math, art, music, almost like superpowers. But scientists notice something wild. In many of these cases, part of their brain becomes less active, not more. So maybe real talent isn't about using more of your brain. Maybe it's about turning parts of it down. Strange, right? But we're just getting started. What about learning? If your brain worked at full power, could you learn a new language in one day? Could you master a guitar overnight? But there's a catch. Learning isn't just about taking in information fast. It's about your brain quietly organizing everything while you sleep. If information came in faster than your brain could sort it, you wouldn't become a fast learner. You'd become overwhelmed, buried under your own thoughts. Now let's talk about something even more personal. Your emotions. Right now your brain controls how much you feel. One part reacts, Another part calms it down. It's a constant back and forth, keeping your feelings balanced. But what if that balance disappeared? What if every emotion hit you at full strength, all the time, with nothing to soften it? Happiness with no limit, fear with no off switch, sadness that never fades. That doesn't sound like a superpower anymore, does it? It sounds like drowning. But here's where things take a surprising turn. Because somewhere inside all that chaos, creativity might explode. Ever wonder how some people come up with wild, brilliant ideas out of nowhere? Scientists say creativity often comes from your brain connecting things that don't normally connect. Random ideas smashing together into something new. If more of your brain suddenly joined the party, you might create something no human has ever imagined before. Just for a moment. Because the next moment, your senses go into overdrive too. Right now, your eyes see way more than your brain shows you. Your brain deletes most of it, so you're not overwhelmed. Same with sound. You can sit in a noisy room and focus on one voice, ignoring everyone else. Scientists call that trick, your brain plays on you, the cocktail party effect. Now imagine that trick disappearing. Every voice, every sound, every color, all screaming for your attention at the exact same time. That's not enhanced vision, that's sensory chaos. Even your words would change. Somewhere in your brain, thoughts exist before words do. If that part of your brain sped up, you might think faster than you could ever speak. Ideas trapped inside you, with no way out. And here's something people never talk about. Decision making. Every choice you make, big or small, comes from different parts of your brain quietly arguing with each other. One part wants comfort, one part wants logic. Normally, one side wins and you move on with your day. But if every part of your brain shouted equally loud all the time, you might freeze completely. Too many options, no clear winner, no way to choose anything at all. And underneath all of this sits the biggest mystery of the entire human brain, something scientists still can't fully explain. How does your brain create the feeling of being you? Nobody knows for sure, but some scientists believe that feeling depends on your brain staying organized, not just busy. If every part fired at once with no order, that quiet, steady sense of this is me might start to break apart. Which brings us to the biggest danger of all, energy. Your brain already burns a huge chunk of your body's fuel just running normally. If every part switched on at full power at the same time, your body couldn't keep up. There wouldn't be enough energy to fuel that kind of activity. In simple terms, your brain would overheat, not become smarter, shut down. Let's think about this another way. Why did your brain end up like this in the first place? Go back thousands of years. Your ancestors didn't have supermarkets. They didn't have fridges full of food. Finding enough to eat was hard. Every single day was a struggle for energy. So imagine if their brains burned fuel at full power all the time. They would have needed way more food than they could ever find. A brain like that wouldn't help you survive. It would kill you faster. That's why nature didn't build a brain that runs at full blast all the time. It built something smarter, a brain that saves energy, a brain that only lights up what it needs when it needs it. Your brain isn't lazy, it's efficient. And efficient is exactly what kept your ancestors alive long enough to have kids who eventually had you. And that leads us to the biggest twist in this whole story. Your brain was never broken. It was never wasting 90% of itself. It was built over millions of years to protect you, to filter out the noise, to forget the pain, to calm your emotions, to stop you from drowning in your own thoughts. If that switch really did flip, even for a second, you probably wouldn't become a superhero. You'd lose control completely. So the next time you forget someone's name, or feel a little slow, or lose focus in a noisy room, don't be upset. That's not weakness. That's your brain, quietly protecting you every single second without you ever noticing. And maybe that's the real twist behind this whole question. You were never using only 10% of your brain. You were always using exactly the amount you needed to stay you.